Okay. Hi guys, this is a recipe video for Brigadeiro. Organic cocoa powder or regular cocoa powder, butter, and sweetened condensed milk. So I was watching a Halloween baking championship episode. It was season 10, episode 1. And one of the contestants had mentioned they were putting Brigadeiro in what they were making for the challenge. And she said it was kind of like fudge. Well, I had never heard of Brigadeiro, so I looked it up because I do like to make fudge, though it's been many years since I've made fudge, but I always found myself to be pretty good at it. I'd never burnt any fudge or anything like that. So, and if anyone knows, you have to be really careful when you're making candy like fudge and caramel and that kind of stuff, because they turn really quick and can burn like suddenly. So I was intrigued by this, and when I looked it up, I found that it only has 3 ingredients, 4 if you count the sprinkles that you roll them in at the end. So it's a can of sweetened condensed milk, a tablespoon of butter, and then 3 tablespoons of cocoa. And I several weeks ago bought the ingredients so that I had them on hand, and I decided to try and make this over the weekend, and it turned out pretty well. The longest part is stirring. If you guys have ever made candy on the stove, you know that you have to stir constantly, and you start to, well, at least I do, I start to doubt whether it's actually cooking properly because it seems to take forever. So, some history about this candy: it's a Brazilian chocolate truffle, and it came about around 1946 during the presidential campaign of Eduardo Gomes, a popular Air Force brigadier, which is how it got its name. He really liked the chocolates, and they were initially sold as a fundraiser to promote his campaign. And so that's where they came from. And I guess initially the recipe included eggs, but today it's only got the 3 main ingredients. And this ended up turning out really well. I bought some peanut butter powder to replace the cocoa powder part of the ingredients. So, because my youngest daughter is a huge fan of peanut butter fudge. So I want to try and make a peanut butter version, but I wanted to do the chocolate first since that was how it originally was made. I guess a lot of variations exist now. There's gourmet candy shops that use a variety of different ingredients like guava, coffee, strawberry, pistachio, so just a lot of different things. And I ended up with rainbow sprinkles. Originally, I think you're supposed to roll them in chocolate sprinkles, but I don't think it matters. The chocolate sprinkles have the very faintest of a chocolate taste, so I don't think that it would really add anything to the taste of the candy. I think rainbow sprinkles are fine. But so it took quite a bit for me to finish this, just because I think I cooked it like 30 minutes or so before it was finally done. And not that I'm recommending you turn the heat up. This was supposed to be cooked on medium heat and stirred until you find that the candy doesn't melt back down immediately. So that was the instruction that I found online when I looked it up, and that's there's no temperature. You're just supposed to know intuitively when to stop. So that's a bit of a challenge, I think, if you have never made candy before. So just be aware. It's not, you can tell in this video how it thickens and how it does start to move more slowly back down to the bottom of the pot. But like I said, candy can turn really quickly, so you have to be really careful. So I did turn the heat up on this when I was making it a couple of times. So I started out at medium. I have a glass top stove, so I feel like it's a little bit more tricky making things like this on that kind of stove. But if you see in the video, it is sped up because it took forever, and I cut out parts of this video as well. But I put my hand over it to see whether it was even heating up. Aside from the butter melting, that was really all I could tell was was that it was warm, is because the butter had eventually melted. But I turned it up, a little past medium, and then I turned it up again, like in between medium and high. And then once I turned it up between medium and high, so it was like 3/4 of the way to high, that's when I started noticing it was bubbling a little bit and it was thickening. And still, I think it's kind of tricky to know when to pull it off of the heat, because there's no temperature. I don't know. You're not supposed to do like a rolling boil or anything. Like when you make caramel, there's a certain, like type of boil that you look for, I think. It just was worrisome. I was a little nervous because I had only just 3 ingredients, but I didn't want to have wasted the ingredients and the time that it took to make this and have it be messed up. So I don't know. Once it started to thicken up, I still kept stirring it, even though it was a little bit thick, and it did take a little bit of time to like melt back down. I kept going as it boiled more and stuff. Oh, and to note, I did change the temperature back down to closer, like pretty close to medium, once it did start boiling a little bit, because I didn't want it to get burnt. And since it was like up to temperature, I felt like turning it down again would be okay. So, but yeah, it's a lot of stirring and, standing at the stove, stirring it. So I'm curious if any of you guys have ever made the Brigadeiro chocolate, and if you have you changed the flavoring on it? Have you added ingredients like vanilla or something? Does that help with the flavor? It ended up being like a caramel texture, kind of like it's really smooth. It feels caramely, which it's not surprising, since sweetened condensed milk you can make caramel out of just cooking that. You can see in the video now it's starting to like go more slowly. You can see that it's bubbling a little bit, and it's not just like going right back down, but it was also like sticking to the bottom of the pan a little bit. And it ended up being a good time. This is after I put it in a dish to cool off. You can see how it kind of is moving. So it's not fudge consistency initially. And what you do is you wait until it's room temperature, and then you are supposed to form it into balls. I think I might not have waited long enough for the room temperature portion of it, but it's still, I put on gloves because I didn't want chocolate stuck all over my hands. So I just formed it into not perfect little balls or spheres or anything, just rolled them around in the sprinkles. And yeah, so initially it's pretty sticky. If you don't get the sprinkles all over, the chocolate will stick. It did stick to me. But after they cooled off completely, like the following day, I had left them sit covered. So the following day I tried one, and I liked it. It's not an overwhelming chocolate, which seems like it would be since it's candy. And it is sweet, but it's not like a cloying sweetness. I don't know. I'm excited to try the peanut butter version of it. A little bit of salt might be good with this, just because chocolate and salt go well together. It helps the flavor come out better. So yeah, and it was really easy, like forming it into the small little shapes. You can do whatever size you want to, different shapes if you want. I don't know, like if you want to cut it out, maybe. I'm not sure. I feel like the opportunities are endless with this candy because it's so simple and it's got so few ingredients that, you know, you can really add some stuff to make it, you know, very unique and stand out better. Okay, so the recipe is 1 can of sweetened condensed milk, 1 tablespoon of butter, and 3 tablespoons of cocoa powder. And you stir all that over medium heat. And once you notice that it doesn't melt down as quickly to the bottom of the pan is when you pull it from the heat. You would have a dish sprayed with a shortening or, you know, nonstick spray that allows you to shape them so that it doesn't stick to the dish. And then you would let it cool to room temperature after you put it in that secondary dish. And then you can either grease your hands or wear gloves and then just roll it in your sprinkles that you have. And then, you know, eat, share, whatever you want to do. So it's a really simple recipe. But again, making candy is tricky, knowing the temperature or knowing when to pull it before it turns, because it turns very quickly. If you watch any of the baking shows or anything like that, you know that they burn their candy and their sugar and stuff, you know, even though they're professionals or experts or however you want to look at it. So it's tricky sometimes, but I think it's worth it. I'm going to bring some of this to work to see how they like it. But my husband and my daughter liked it. They said it was good. So I'm going to put the recipe and instructions in the description of the video. But this is how the consistency was right after I finished rolling them in the sprinkles. And like I said, the texture is like a caramel. It's very smooth, and the chocolate taste is not overwhelming. It's actually quite nice. And then this is how they were the next day when they had been sitting out covered. So it's more of a firmer texture, but still the texture when I ate it was still like a caramel.